I took it to the store and back and had a nice talk about being a Christian and how I'm the #1 Christian, and that you know, there isn't really any other person that's in that position. That position is mine, and I don't want to sound too bold and start off real cross, but you know, a lot of these people that you see in these mega churches and these churches everywhere, not just mega churches, but TV evangelists and the whole thing, they're just essentially they're not really in a position of authority. Not the one I'm in anyway. They may be in to some small degree. People may have put them, allowed them to, you know, dictate what they believe or what they do, and that just isn't the case as far as it goes, because I am at the top when it comes to being an authority. I call myself the highest Christian, and I put that in my blog because they use that term to do a news story about persecution of Christians around the world. And I made a comment on that. My blog is jamessouther.substack.com, and that's my name, JamesSouther.substack.com. And you can kind of go through that and see that how they've kind of used, you know, elaborate techniques to, you know, intimidate me or threaten me and that sort of thing, or inform me of what they may be planning to do. So that is there for your viewing or your access if you're able to do that. And then I can get into some more things here about you know, this whole Christian position of mine. You know, where I'm the highest Christian. I prove it. I have a blog. In that blog, I also have something called God is in the Details, and I have the receipts. And those are literal receipts from a store. And, you know, I mean, the whole thing is, it's amazing how sometimes these signs just show up. And I, you know, chose a scripture that had to do with that in my blog. In my blog of the saints, the modern day targeted individuals, Keys to the Kingdom blog, I go into the scripture that I picked to represent the idea that the rocks would cry out. If other people didn't declare that I was the #1 Christian, or to some degree do the signs and wonders or whatever they witness, the rocks would cry out. And I had posted that in my blog after I was on the show, but I was on a show that was episode 1940. And episode 1940 of the show ended up being the same number the episode, or the same number that the scripture was that I found in the Bible. So I didn't even find it. I just thought of the words because I don't know them by heart. So I just remembered the words. I said, I'm going to use that scripture. Went and looked it up, and it was 1940. And that was the same number of the show I was just on, was 1940. And so when I did that, it was another sign to me. You know, that's what I do. That's how I show that I am this #1 Christian. There's nobody that I have not seen anybody do what I do. you know, to begin with. Never mind anything that they claim they do, you know, but I have not seen anybody do what I do. And so as far as it goes, you know, if you want to read that in my blog, that is in there as well. It's all about my Christian walk, so to speak, or you know, my Christian status, and how you know, many people know that, but when you get into some of these organizations and stuff, they don't necessarily promote it. You know what I mean? They're kind of they admit it. They admit I'm the #1 Christian, but they don't promote it. You know, it's they don't like they don't praise me for it necessarily openly. They may praise me secretly, but they don't praise me openly. Not that I look for praise, but I'm just saying that that's a thing that goes along with being a, you know, a Christian with authority, and a high one, which I am the highest. And so as it goes so far, there are, you know, lots of evidences in the blog. I do the signs and wonders. I do the words of knowledge and prophesy. You know, I don't do them lightly. I don't make them a common occurrence. Not the prophecy. The others I do all the time. You know, always. And the other, so the prophecy I can do, and I have done, and God honors me and fulfills it, but I am very careful with that. I don't prophesy ignorantly. I decide I'm not going to be, you know, careless with that sort of thing. And so when it comes to doing that sort of thing, I have, you know, some evidence if you want. The receipts, God is in the details post, and I have the receipts. That was a prophecy that I didn't even know. I had no idea. Nobody told me to go prophesy. And you know, I try not to prophesy, so I'm rather new at the experience. I'm, you know, not new at the experience, but for God to fulfill such a thing with solid evidence, you know, the receipts from the store, you'll have to, you know, if you want to access that blog, you'll see how it worked out. That it's more than established. There's not much there to argue with, and for anybody arguing against that. So, and like everything, you know, they know I do the signs and wonders. They know I'm the #1 Christian. They oppress me and keep me from success and opportunity, just so that I don't ever get that, just so I don't get away. And so at this point, you know, I have all these, you know, these experiences that I don't question, that even other ministers, or not ministers, I really don't want to connect these people with the actual true Christianity, you know, but all these other people that claim to be Christian or claim to be in the ministry, they don't have the credentials that I have anyway, and they don't even necessarily make that claim. Some of them do, but it's, like I say, it's very, you know, I have not seen it. and or I have not witnessed it. And I'm not saying that there aren't things that happen, but through innocence and that sort of thing, because innocence, you know, is a good thing when it comes to doing anything, you know, for the good of other people or yourself. And so I don't question that there are other things happening, but you know, when it comes down to who's the number one Christian, it's me. There's no question about that. I've proven it. They persecuted me for nearly my entire life. It's going back as far as, you know, my childhood or even my infancy, even my birth. If you read the Music of Donald Trump campaign part of my blog, I have songs in there that go all the way back to, you know, the year I was born, that have to some degree, you know, connections to me and my birth and my location and my name. And so you'll see some of that in or not, you won't see it, but you can access that in my Music of Donald Trump portion of my blog. All these are found at, you know, jamessouther.substack.com. And that's JamesSouther.substack.com. And I may translate that, I may read it and put it into voice and just describe the images for the visually impaired, and possibly you know, do what I can for that, because it's such an important topic that a lot of these people that you think you may consider leaders or, you know, upstanding people of God, you may just find out that they're not, and that they've been covering me up for a long time so that they could get their share of the lost sheep, which you technically are. And so I have been, you know, oppressed, and believe me, greatly oppressed. Not just denied opportunity and persecuted, but I mean to near death, and multiple times. I am just now, this is one of my first times on this bike where I'm not too sick to ride it. And so for me, it's been, you know, that type of situation. I haven't been treated well, to say the least. And so I'm working on, you know, getting out that whole I'm the number one Christian message. Hopefully things will take before things get even worse, I guess. If, you know, they say that everything's kind of taking a turn towards that worst, you know, situation. But even if they don't, you know, I mean, there's a scripture, you know, that in the last days, you know, they shall be marrying and taking in marriage and that sort of thing, and as it was in the days of Noah. So, you know, this is one of those things that you shouldn't have to wait for gloom and doom, and you shouldn't have to wait for things to happen before you realize I'm the number one Christian, and I've been appointed to lead. And you know, I don't have the fancy suits, and I don't have the big car and all that. I ride a bicycle for about 40 years now, and you know, I dress just casually most of the time, and you know, I just have not really adhered to that sort of type, you know, that an image. And so that some people may have to get used to that. It may be something that they are uncomfortable with, but that's just the way it is. You know, God chose me, I chose my clothes. And so I'm going ahead and being that at the moment. So now that you know a little bit about the blog, and you can find lots of information there, and those are not to be off track, but evidences of crimes that I was collecting, crimes against me, covert crimes by the establishment and by the media, a lot by the establishment media. But you know, there have been others involved. It's not just the media and the establishment, but it's a many participation situation. And I use the term many purposely because when, you know, Jesus asked, you know, who are you? Or I don't know if it was Jesus or I'll have to look that up. I am, you know, drawing but he said, we are many. And so that's the name I give all of them. I give them many. And so if you hear me say many a lot of times it's just to kind of, that's the word I'm going to use for the people involved and what they represent. So those things will be in the blog, a lot of them. That was evidence of crimes against me that I built up for, at some point, a court case or press charges against people that are doing things to me that they possibly shouldn't be, and taking part in my persecution, and they possibly shouldn't be. So, you know, I don't want to sound too much, you know, like a zealot or anything to that concern, because for the most part I'm just a normal person. I'm not a zealot. You know, I love God with all my heart, you know, but I don't try to be offensive or overly, you know, domineering in you know, overbearing in a you know, in an appearance, I guess might be a word. I don't know too many. Hello. I don't know too many words, but that might be one. And so at this point I'm kind of just discussing the scripture part of the blog, you know, how the 1440 came into play, and then I go into that blog into the movie The Postman that was part of my conversation in the chat, possibly prior to my being on the show even. If I'm not mistaken, it was prior to my being on the show, and I had no idea what episode it was or anything. They post all that. That was not me. When they said it was show 1940, and I already had discussed that the postman had something to do with my life, you know, the movie and the characters and other connections. That was before I knew that the show was 1940, and there's a 1940 in that connection in that movie as well, and also connections to you know, Minnesota Minneapolis, as a matter of fact, where I have lived for most of my life, and you know, that sort of thing. So that's in there. So you may be able to find it interesting. It's just going to be, you have to go slow like me and take it in bits, because it's you know, detailed.